Florida State is being asked to downsize their stadium. Why in the world would they do that?
There is a few issues for why they are downsizing the stadium, and people are very upset. The capacity is about 80,000, but Florida State has had major issues filling that stadium in recent years, and I mean major issues. And there are safety issues. So for those who don't, guys, for those who don't know, with Neyland Stadium, as you know, Dave, Neyland Stadium, to get to 100,000, it was consistently a build on top of build on top of build over the course of 70 years, right?
Yeah, and I can tell you an Uncle Dave press box story. I was told by somebody who actually worked for the university that at that time, this has been several years ago, that the stadium on the press box side was unsafe because of the building on building on building. And it was a matter of time until there was some sort of collapse. So you can only imagine how much I did not enjoy exciting times in the press box towards the end of my time there at Neyland Stadium.
I could imagine. Yes.
Like, they're going to bring the whole damn thing down.
So Florida State during the Bobby Bowden years, they had like your before they really took off as a program, it was like your mid-size type of stadium. And I mean, they went from within a few years' time, 69,000 to 80,000 seat stadium. It was a very, very, very fast, and it wasn't expanded in a safe way. So there's that issue. There's also the issue of them because they're stuck in the ACC, they've been getting really bad games, and until last year were very mediocre, so you just couldn't fill the stadium. They're making the bank that with TV revenue and things like that, size is not going to be as important. It's also a red flag that I haven't gotten to yet, but this could tie into what they're planning to do with their conference future.
Can I offer up a little something?
Sure.
I do not want to see little bitty stadiums like in the NFL. And part of the reason that those are there is because they generate as much revenue off suites as they do actual ticket sales. So they can do that. They can have smaller stadiums, less of a headache. Why not? You get a guy to pay $10,000 instead of $100 a ticket, then you've done great. I don't want to see that. But I tell you what the networks don't want to see, and this hurt Tennessee. Empty seats. Television stations and networks hate seeing empty seats. That's why a lot of times if you're watching a sporting event and you're thinking to yourself, I wonder how many people are actually at this game. It's probably because the camera's not panning up and showing you how many people are not at the game. That is a real thing for TV. So you have to keep some fans in the seats so you can't get it too big. But I don't want to see Florida State, Neyland Stadium, the Big House. I don't want to see all these places cut down to 60 or 70,000. That would be awful. And that would take away part of the great thing about college football is the 90, 100,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, there's a happy medium here. And to your point with Tennessee, for those who don't know, one of the most embarrassing moments in Tennessee athletics history was the second time they played Nebraska when they played them in the Fiesta Bowl the year after the 98 national championship game. You have told me how apathetic the team was about that game and how little they cared. The fans didn't care.
When you're sitting at the hotel bar and the coaching staff comes by and you're having a drink and you're a player and they say, well, guess I can't really say anything to you about it now. And you say, no, you can't. Yeah, that's a little out of control.
Complete lack of care. The fan base didn't care. Nebraska was up to 4/5 of that stadium was Nebraska. This was why, by the way, 2 years later, when the Orange Bowl, the BCS Bowl, had a chance between Tennessee and Florida, they picked Florida over Tennessee. And then the Outback Bowl picked Florida 2 years later over Tennessee because Tennessee embarrassed itself with not caring about that game and not filling the stadium. It was a very bad look for the program. Neyland Stadium had to downsize, for those who don't know, back in like 2005, 2006 during the Mike Hamilton years because of safety issues. They had expanded. Tennessee and Michigan were in a major fight to have the biggest stadium for a while, and they kept expanding on each other. And then Neyland Stadium started doing it in an unsafe way, so they had to downsize. Here's what I will say. From a recruiting perspective, having the biggest stadium doesn't mean anything anymore, Dave, does it?
I think saying 100,000 sounds good, but it's not going to make it up anybody's mind.
Right. It was a difference in 98 when Tennessee had 100,000 and the closest stadium had 80,000, right?
Right. So like to say 100,000, I got 100,000. I got 97. Well, my 100 sounds a lot better than your 97. I'm sorry.
Yes. But now half the SEC has 100,000 seat stadiums.
Exactly. I agree with Mead Drinker. No, I think it was Dylan actually said the huge crowds screaming at the top of their lungs is what makes college football special. I agree. NFL crowds always seem so tame. I'm blown away by the people that are oftentimes raised in the Northeast and they go to a bunch of NFL games and then they go to a game in the South, college football, for the first time. Was that Dave who had a window shatter on him in a press box? Yes, that was at Kentucky when it was so cold outside and they had the heater blowing up against the window that the press box shattered all over me, but I was fine. Just did a little plastic surgery.
Commonwealth Stadium is the worst stadium in the SEC for those who haven't been, isn't it, Dave?
Oh, it's Vanderbilt.
Well, okay, I'm not counting Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's
okay.
I'm not counting Vanderbilt.
It's Vanderbilt and everybody else is in like a whole different. So yes, Kentucky is the worst, other than Vanderbilt.
It's horrible.
It's awful. It's freezing. You can't feel your toes at the end of the game. But the old Cotton Bowl is every bit as bad. It's basically the same thing.
You just went at a bad time.
Yeah, I was freezing.